You had your 4 exercises. We unpacked it a little bit. We looked at it, looked at this, looked at the ecology. I'm bringing back the complexity diagram. I put a crosswalk through it because comms aspire to be the in the middle here. So that all our stakeholders from bottom, from top, can all talk in the middle. And we are multilingual. We have vertical knowledge. We have horizontal spatial, because these are all micro locations. So we have horizontal bandwidth and we have vertical literacy. And then through the dimensions of space and knowledge, etc., comms is going to come up with stories, language that unify, that help to bridge the gap. Yeah, so let's do some dot connecting here. Let's connect some dots from there, from here. Let's rewire your brains. Let's unwire some things that was not useful and then rewire it. What needs to be rewired? Speaking of collective leadership and adaptive leadership, collective leadership, democracy, trust, relationships, all these things. Letting go. I'm going to use this point. Letting go. I'm going to use it against you. Yeah, I wanna talk about a couple of things: collective leadership and letting go. The concept of letting go. The concept of structure. The concept of people feeling abandoned, not feeling abandoned. And just using that as a test question. How we deal with this issue of, did we succeed in the project? Did we fail in the project? Did we abandon people? Are we there too long? Are we authoritative? Are we adaptive? Are we collective? The issue of leadership. And how do you lead? How do you lead a systems change intervention? And then if there are layers, because of course there are layers, but still, I mean, the ecology is basically an organization chart, right? At the top in governance, you have your board. Your finance, so you have the management doing all these things, right? But we don't put it in a hierarchy because it isn't a hierarchy. We do put the projects and the programs in the middle. We do, because that is the content of the work. And we don't try to manage and control and command every project. There has always been collective leadership, whether you took it or not, whether you took the baton or not.
Correct.
That was always present.
Right.
Whether you understood the language or not, it was there from the beginning.
Right.
How do we build resilience? One thing in the DNA with regards to collective leadership. You're gonna say something, Winnie?
I was just I think our structure is there with the intention of building resilience across every sector, projects, and even management. But it's just that I think I did mention just now when sharing, it is the readiness of the people, and you mentioned it, whether people take it, you know. I mean, it is a two-way thing. But if Cynthia Ong migrate to Papua New Guinea tomorrow, I think somehow or another, some of the three what do you call that, the finance part, maybe it will be a bit uh, difficult. We are building capacity now on that, but I think we need to have more lah there. It is an area where uh, not many of us are good at the moment. Maybe because we are not exposed to that world probably. But it's coming up. I know we have people who are dealing with funders directly now, who write reports, because I think it was an intention, purpose intention for the management to allow the project lead to directly communicate with funders now. So yeah, the last 2 days, although it was very intense, the crash course, but then mm, it was really good in the sense that it uh, we reflected on our current system. Sometimes we assume it's, or our system is working or not working, but because of this exercise, we dive deep, and then actually, you know, some people prefer 5R or whatever. I like all of the tools because it helps us with every looking at the whole thing, you know, kind of thing. I think without Cynthia, a lot of the projects will carry on because our technical people are there, our project coordinators are there. Yeah, it doesn't mean that when Cynthia is totally out, the whole thing will not function. That's my opinion lah. Because I think individual projects, they are empowered. No, I wouldn't use the word empowered, but there is a structure there that they would be able to to function. Yeah. So Cynthia comes in on a different level. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Usually we use Cynthia for Cynthia is like a tool. Sorry, Cynthia. We
Yeah,
ask
we
her.
use Cynthia.
Yeah. We use Cynthia when we need to use her.
Yeah, when we need her signature. When we want her to meet the chief minister, yeah, we use Cynthia. Yeah,
And then,
yeah. I think
and
to answer, I think we can still carry
and then
on.
you brief me, and then you brief me with all the content, right? Because I don't know the content.
Yeah, that's usually do it. Like 10 minutes before meeting, oh, this is what's happening, Cynthia. Okay, take over. Yeah, so yeah, I agree with Winnie. We can still actually go on because I'm happy with the structure that we have. Of course, we still need the executive decision from time to time of course. But yeah, I think we can still.
Yeah, the philanthropy side is the one that I think we need to we need to build a bit of capacity.
What the point I'm trying to make is about collective leadership and resilience within collective leadership. And I don't just mean just for money, but what about your governance? Would someone have taken the meeting today in my place to be able to deal with the powers that be? Who's going to go fight at JCSC? Who's going to fight with the chief minister, Obong Mokhtar, or Sernam? Would you guys like to do that? I'd be happy if you did that. because opening the political space has been key to what was developed there, why the ecology is even there. And that requires a certain kind of leadership. It's not just fundraising. Fundraising is one component, but the political leadership of things, and I don't mean party politics, I mean the knowing who you have to talk to open a space for something to happen. None of these spaces were handed to us. At times we fought for that space, and we fought for the space to remain open. Many times when it would have shut down, like the JC process, could have shut down 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. PS space could shut down now. Your Sabah renewable energy space, you think this was just about funding? Was it just about funding?
No way. Funding was one of it.
Your FMU model, who's pushing that? Who's working with Anika Desiran and SFD?
Yeah.
So my point is, there's leadership at the project level, there's leadership at the ground level, and there has to be leadership up here. There has to be leadership that understands this, knows how to facilitate and bridge.
Yeah, I think we lack leadership.
That's why we're doing the mountaintops and the immersions, because all of you need to be that. And that's why I asked the question, what would happen if I left tomorrow? This is why we do this, the mountaintop, to build the literacy between here and here. And I call it literacy because it is literally language. It is literally content and knowledge that you can communicate across this divide. So the one key thing in the Pan Borneo Highway meeting today that utterly blew the guy's brain was, go to the needle, spatial science. You guys should all respect at the feet of the spatial scientists, Nikki and Hugo. He just couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the dwellings paper. He said, holy crap, you guys surveyed the entire, every inch by inch of the stretches to look at what homes will be displaced. No one has ever done that. They said, oh my God, this can really help us. I said, that's why we've been trying to meet you for 3 years. But actually we did meet with them. But if you recall, 2 government changes since then. And JKR and the Pan Borneo Highway consultants got changed. Remember Peter Anthony? And then now it's Bong Mokhtar. Yeah. Remember it was PDP and I don't know what they were called. Now it's another company. I got the card, I don't remember. Kinta Samudra or something, I don't know. They're in charge of 20 work packages. So they literally couldn't believe their eyes when they saw all that was done by one person with one half of an assistant. So what's my point? To be a crosswalk facilitator, the knowledge, the literacy that we have to have. I've had to learn a lot of things. You're learning a lot of things. But to be able to communicate, like let's say just now JKR and Pan Borneo was here and I was here. I had to also understand the content to be able to walk through the paper to show them what it was. And that became a political tool. Does that make sense? That's when the walls came down and they said, our team needs to sit with your team. Not in a one-off, but all the time. And I said, yes, that's what we've been hoping for all along. But again, it's not, that's why government leadership is so important. When we lose it because of political changes, it does disrupt a lot of things, because it disrupted things for JKR too. It disrupted the project consultants. So we did lose a couple of years. So it wasn't that they were ignoring us so much as that their leadership was disrupted. And remember, Peter Anthony said this said this, Chafi said that, Bong Mokhtar now say this. It's all, everybody says different things. But I got it very clearly today about where the decision is made. And they said 100% whether it's going to be changed for Tawai, for example, is up to Hajiji and Bong. So they said, what they did say, they're going to study our route. And they're already starting to study it, our yellow route. They already put it, they also have it. They don't have the digital file because we gave them a PDF, but we're happy to give them the digital file, and they can study it, and they will cost it out. They will cost it out. So when SKN calls for a meeting, or whoever calls for a meeting, they can say, we've costed it out, it's gonna cost this much. But they asked us to do the cost benefit analysis for the other road, the Tawai road. So for example, Marina said, some people have calculated when you lose one rhino in certain part of Africa, you lose this much in tourism dollars. So we can say we lose one elephant, we lose one whatever, we lose this in tourism dollars, or etc. So anyway, we have to talk about that. But point being, there is project leadership. So let's zoom out again and go to the project, the ecology. There is project leadership everywhere, but it requires us a particular kind of leadership to open these spaces. Yes, to keep these spaces open, to do the work, and then to keep on opening new spaces. And the leadership that's in particular projects, let's say Project Padi like Chipper, he will not be the guy who has to talk to DID and Jabatan Pertanian, Jabatan Haiwan. So the layers of the different kinds of leadership in collective leadership is vital. It's like in ecology, in a forest ecology, all the different creatures that you need. So yes, it is about project coordinators and technical coordinators, but it is also about those of you who are ready, who are keen, the facilitators, the strong facilitative leaders who can do this vertical literacy and navigate these seas. Does that make sense? And that's what I'm very, very focused on. Yes, and as Winnie says, being able to write and draw funders. Funders don't get drawn to just any project. They don't just get drawn to any body of work. There's a reason they get drawn to it. If they see they can trust you, if they see integrity, all these things, and you deliver, repeatedly you deliver, because they look at what you've delivered. Is that so? If this system is going to be resilient, there are a bunch of systems thinkers that we need with the ability to be, to do this vertical literacy, to be able to understand spatial science. Not that you have to be a spatial scientist, but you understand what spatial science can do, and you understand the tool. Legal innovation, same thing. You understand the tool of being able to be innovative in the legal landscape, rather than to just see, as everybody does, it's all a bunch of laws and we just go by the law. Because law is man-made and laws can be transformed or reformed or revised. So I was, very, very clear that one of the modules was going to be the systems thinking. The last one was facilitative leadership, because this is the core of the team that we need to build. And I'm sure there are some of you that are interested in it, to move beyond project leadership or even program leadership. And then it is a skill that you build, that grows over time. So this is a first step. Maybe it's a second or a third or a 10th step for some of you. But how, with the real understanding of collective leadership and practice of collective leadership, do we create this within the organization? So it's not one person, the only person who can take one particular meeting. And it's fine for a while, but that it can't always be that way. Yeah, the orientation of you guys as a team really orienting towards this is super important. That's why I say find your place in it. Find your place in that, which is also this. You can superimpose this on that. You know what I mean? You can superimpose the map of Sabah on it. You can superimpose the map of Southeast Asia on it. I was in a presentation a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was Ashoka Europe, a planet and climate conversation. It was European funders in the call, and I presented this, and I particularly focus on the UK Pact project. So I got an email yesterday from them, and there was a particular funder, one of the leading edge climate funders in Europe, and he was fascinated with this, and want to talk about climate funding. Okay, so what does that mean? It could mean this space expands. If there's different matching funds or whatever. But all of this really requires someone, not like a negotiator, but someone to have that conversation. Or why Sabah? Why would Europe put money in Sabah? It's an EU fund. So we knew that with UK Pact, that was taking things to another level. Casey, you asked the question during the town hall meeting. What is the trend of funders? The trend of funders is the trend of funders is climate funding. This is one of the things that the board asked us to do, to make climate more explicit in our ecology. Our board members, sorry, did I say funders? No, board members. The board members asked, can we put climate in the mix? And this was a couple of board meetings ago. And we have been having that conversation repeatedly at the board level. I did put it out to the team. Can we have a small team that wants to put some energy there? So if you talk about collective leadership, if you want to build an area of work and you want to be relevant in the next few years of FS or 10 years of FS or 20 years of FS, you roll with me on this. That this is the time we can design things that are going to be relevant interventions. Because in the sense making that funders are doing, they say, put all our money in changing all the systems of how the economy works. And fossil fuels out the window, deforestation out the window, renewable energy in, sustainable agriculture in, keeping forests in. You see what I mean? The funders are having a mindset shift. No more like small boutique projects. Oh, I'm going to feel so good. I saved 100 elephants. No more. So what does that require? And you talk about philanthropy and we just have to learn how to write better. No, you don't just have to learn how to write better. You have to think better. You have to sense make, you have to collaborate, you have to lean into the future. And it takes collaborative, collective, facilitative leadership. So one of the clear things I think they see, the climate movement also, I include the funders in that. No one country, no one organization, no one can do this. You see all the funders are also grouping together. All of them are aligning like, oh, let's put, if you see this Glasgow talk, the COP26 in Glasgow, which is so UK is hosting, they're building all these big funds. Jeff Bezos just built a fund, 10 billion. It's just like they said, oh, it's just the beginning. So, and jurisdictions, they want to see jurisdictions. All the big companies are coming together. They're also saying jurisdictions. So where is, this is the kind of leadership we need now. And it isn't, one person or whatever, but it does require, like Stash says, Stash can't do this alone for sure. Unless you want to.
No. What if like the technical advisors can like also help me? So at least because they know what they're doing.
Technical advisors.
All of the
Technical
coordinators. Sorry, yeah.
In theory, your technical coordinators, your project coordinators are supposed to be in collective leadership with you. And comms is a two-way street. It's supposed to be like that. But I can't do that every day and say, are you talking to her? Are you talking to him? I mean,
Everyone's also busy doing their own thing as well.
yeah. But even if you can, like if, let's say like if I was the one person comms team of this organization, I would say, okay, I would understand the ecology. I would look for the stories. Who's ready to share their story? I would have a couple of weeks focus on this, couple of weeks focus on this, couple of weeks focus on this. What is the output look like? I would have understand my platforms, understand my tools, understand my contractors that I can use. Say, Cynthia, I need this contractors for 6 months. I want to do this. So yes, I understand you're a one-person show, but you can be creative lah. We have like with the tech team coming on board, there is an expansion of capacity, huge expansion of capacity, huge guys. So, okay, I lectured enough. I would love to hear feedback. Would love to use this lecture stroke input to, that was like a reality thing coming from me in terms of how we move this into the future. What does the future iteration look like? And that, do you all see your place in it? Or are you sort of half thinking, I think I need to go join a Sawit company. Oops. Is it solar cut off or SSB? Sorry, our current died, guys. It could be SCSB solar died. Can you have a look? What happened? Died? Your computer died too? Zoom is on?
Yeah, Zoom is on.
Wow, that's a miracle.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
hear you clearly.
Okay, any thoughts, Casey and all? So we can hear you too. Doesn't matter, we have no screen, no whatever, but you can talk.
The screen is still there.
You can see, but we can't see.
Oh. So I think so far, Gan, I saw the Segama project. I think quite successful in that sense. We used Cynthia occasionally when we need her cloud, and then normally for PMU and all the Putrajaya meeting and all that, Phoebe can handle, not a problem. And then we attend if there's any technical thing. And then the way I look at it so far, if we have a DO meeting or government agency meetings, or sometimes we can ask Cynthia to come in and help us. Other than that, I think the budget-wise, everything is very clear. It's very clear what we have to spend, what we don't have to spend, we cannot spend, and what kind of report we have to produce every deadline to Phoebe. Very, very clear. The action plan also super clear. So I think that should be the model that we should look forward to lah.
Okay. Any further thoughts? Neville, you're very quiet.
Yes. Yeah. We have a comment from Jennifer. Love your sharing, Cynthia. Makes me hopeful for the future when all of us work together.
Say again?
Oh, yeah.
They can hear, you can hear.
Yeah, they can.
They can hear you. So I'm gonna test your assumption, Casey. As the project rolls out and then you converge towards the deliverables at the end, who is the person who would lead on the interface with SFD so that they are also moving with the tasks they have to do so that we achieve the deliverables?
That part we need Cynthia on.
Who will follow through with the companies? So is there a possibility that that there's a time when you don't need me? You see what I mean? So is there potential within our teams that we build as collectively the ability to have that political clout for our technical coordinators, for the project coordinators? You see what I'm saying? Can we do that? And I'm not saying tomorrow, but even in 3 years, 5 years, where we don't say that it always has to be the person who knows how to call a spade a spade. I mean, you look at Bjorn yesterday. One of the things, I have this conversation with him, he says, oh, people say he can't be a leader because he's too soft. Is it true that soft guys can't be leaders? Or does a woman have to be like me? Can a woman like Vivian, who's shy, lead? So how do we help you, I mean, plural you, be equipped with the knowledge, and so you don't have a crash of self-esteem? How do we do that? How does FSI do that? Or how do we in management do that? I'm not saying like I'm demanding an answer. I'm just putting the question out there. Is it a combo of the content and the skills and courage? Or is it purely content? or or is it sometimes even mostly courage, less content? Does that make sense? I know Rizlan tells me as well, and we experienced it the other day in the meeting with Surnam. When they see these young guys and they're like, why is he at the table? He's so young. And to me, it was always intentional that everyone in FS can be at the highest table with their consent, and they have the opportunity to speak. That I was never such where I'm going to be like, no, only I can speak. Anyone whose voice can keluar can speak and has spoken at very, very nerve-wracking tables. And I think many of you have done that. With the Chief Conservator Forest, even higher than that, SKN, some of you have spoken. And you're shitting bricks, right? I know you're shitting bricks. But that is literally what it takes to build esteem, self-esteem. It is literally what it takes to understand content and understand language and build your literacy up here. So I think it's a really good question for FSI. How do we help? And this was hugely a part of why we do Mountaintop and Valley Immersions this year, is to present you, offer you tools, content, landscapes, people. You see roles and relationships, you see resources, you see all these things. Once you have a personal connection and experience with it, we hope you find your place in it. We hope it empowers you. That is certainly the intention. Phoebe, you have anything to share? You were thrown into the deep end, into the Sagama River with crocodiles. Metaphorically and literally, you have anything to share?
Yeah, I can really understand where Yana is coming from. I think, I mean, trying to do what you do, Cynthia, because you always go into these meetings and then you are able to digest the things that were discussed, and you are able to summarize it in a way that, make people feel like the meeting was a very fruitful one or something like that lah. So I think for us, it may come in, we need the courage, obviously. It also takes a certain degree from ourselves to understand the content of our projects, for example. Maybe not deeply, if you are not able to, understand
Connection.
Phoebe, sorry, we disconnected.
Oh, okay.
Can you repeat a little bit?
Yeah, I think you guys caught about the part where I talked about how Cynthia is able to summarize the discussion in such a way that makes all this, the whole discussion, for example, for 2 hours make sense. I think that's an ability that is surely obtained through experience, I think. And maybe for us, it takes a combination of courage, because a lot of the times when we go into meetings with these government agencies or funders, I think it's helpful sometimes when Cynthia tells me, like, you're the boss, you just present like you I mean, you speak clearly and strongly, and I think that's a very good thing, a reminder for us as well. And I remember a conversation with Yogi where she was talking about, taking young people to be pelapis dorang, and she said, there's no other way to teach you guys other than to just throw you into the mix. I mean, of course, we can be equipped with all these tools, all this theory, and hear about people talking about it, but at the end, it's the first step that we have to take, even though we are shitting bricks, like Cynthia was saying. So it does take a certain extent of courage where we can build into our esteem. And also content is important because we need to understand what we're bringing to the table. Always a platform that a platform that we're able to create with all these government and agencies or something, we must be able to bring something to them to ensure that they can give us something in return. So yeah, I think it's a combination of both content, courage, and just maybe taking that first step. I don't think it gets easier as the time goes on. You're still nervous and whatever, but yeah, it helps lah.
Yeah, I agree with Phoebe because I think a lot of FS punya younger staff experience when we are like discriminate in the meeting, when we have meeting without Cynthia or without elders in the meeting, like meeting with DO, we can heard that they said, oh, dorong ni muda lagi dan sebagainya. They try to mempercepatkan meeting dan sebagainya. But I think, yeah, the courage and the content must be there because, especially the content, because I think when you have the ownership of the work that you do, I think that's the courage come in and try to ownership your work, even it's small like FPIC. It's not FPIC like tiada arah tuju sekarang ni, but I take ownership when people said sensitive thing about FPIC because I put a lot in that work, even though I'm not the expert. But yeah, and the guide that we did, I know it's not the best version yet, but at least I appreciate the hard work and the time that the team gave in the work lah. Even though I know it will be more lot things to do about FPIC. I'm sure because we're doing it like we are not, me and Ryan not expert. Kursam also not expert. So for me, ownership can come in different shape lah. Even though the work is valid or not, but most important thing is you put your time, your spirit in there. I think it's enough because especially when you put like Phoebe in Sagama, there's no background like she is not biodiversity student before. It's a legal student. So, but take ownership of your project or your small or big. But yeah, I think when you have the ownership, the courage comes in lah. And maybe also we need to learn, especially myself, I think. I get hit up so easily, especially in the meeting. So I think I need to learn how to control my emotion and my emotion when people try to provoking me in the meeting and not appreciating my not appreciating my kehadiran aku di sana lah. So yeah.
Thanks, Rizwan. Again, one thing which was implicit for me as chef was FS will have young people. And then we will expose young people to being at the table, opportunities. At the same time, also now I realize more and more that if you have a traumatic experience, you may be traumatized for a long time. So it's not always a good idea. So I'm also learning that sometimes people are not ready, emotionally also not ready, because you could be scarred for life if you at the table and then suddenly it's so terrible. But I've had more very, very powerful positive experiences, even like the PS communities, kan Yana, at the table, really, really articulating their voices so well. And at the end of our last phase at the NRO committee, as you remember, Yana, we didn't even have to speak much because the communities were speaking for themselves. So there are many, many very, very positive experiences. And you know, I think in here, there is a facilitation of young people being at the table, women being at the table, communities being at the table, all the marginalized voices of people mostly here being able to be at the table. And you know, this is hugely Ilan's theme of Borneo Heart, right? The used to be the tikar, and now it's the table, and then many people are excluded from the table. And we've been doing a lot of work to bring people to the table, and sometimes we've created the table. You know, and this, yes, there's project skills, project management skills, coordination skills, technical skills, but remember that's why we focused the last session on facilitative leadership. And facilitative leadership is very twinned, I believe, to systems thinking, because you believe in collective leadership. You believe that that is the best way to get great things done. One of my mentors always told me, you can do good things on your own, but you can never do great things. You need organization, that body of people to do great things. So that's always been, if you know, Uni knows this, we don't hire and fire and hire and fire. We try to work with everybody for as long as we can until we die. Because ultimately it is about, well, everybody has to become a stakeholder. If you talk about water and food and energy and trees and that, everybody is a stakeholder. 7.2 billion people are stakeholders. You can't actually throw them off the planet. So that means they're a stakeholder. Everyone should be a stakeholder in climate change. Everyone is a stakeholder in a circular economy in Sabah. So you benci the person, you benci the organization, you still have to learn how to have tolerance, have compassion, have empathy. And I think the whole thing around systems thinking and all these tools is about, on the soft side, it is about empathy. It is about compassion. It is about walking in the shoes of somebody else, seeing across the divide, understanding their reality, what are in their books, which is all the institutions here have to work with their enactments and their policies and their laws. You know, radical people and with different kinds of freedom that are not bound by that, the way institutions, some government, well, all government institutions are bound, can act sometimes without accountability. That doesn't mean we don't have accountability lah. And it also doesn't mean that all government institutions have accountability. Like, let's say the water department. Yeah, I mean, this is a ticking time bomb. We're at the very, very end of the grid. And beginilah hari-hari. So if you go to SCSB and you see even their office and the state of their office, and then you think you can depend on them, you must depend on them, you can only depend on them to keep the lights on. Don't think that lah, because I don't know, because it's not wise.
I agree juga lah with, it's particularly always very useful and effective to have Cynthia in government meetings. This was back in the day, you know, physical meetings. So in physical meetings, there's a lot of power play and psychology going in. So like Cynthia naturally is a very strong character around people in government meetings. Her aura herself, masuk dalam government office, orang government pun like, okay, let's sit straight. Except for Sam Manan. Sam Manan will be like, okay, begini, and then begitu. So when Cynthia is not around, we tend to get bullied or manipulated or get advised or tell what to do, despite after presenting our findings and so it's always very powerful to have Cynthia lah. But kalau tiada dia, susah sikit. We have to have the courage to argue sometimes with them. Cannot be so polite. how to channel Cynthia's aura. Maybe we should learn how to dress like Cynthia, how to speak like Cynthia, how to like apa bagi the eyes. I'm just joking. Tapi those days now all meetings are online kan, so no more of that. So we can just be who we really are in front of our webcam. That's a major advantage these days. And because those power play semua tiada sudah. Tambah lagi, imagine if those round table apa semua is public, so government have to be careful with what they say, while we are trying to increase transparency in in everything. Yeah, this is all from me. Thank you.
Well, I mean, there is not like there's a magic thing for me. I think, you learn it, right? You build it. But I do want to point out to this thing about direct democracy or just democracy. Your voice and your right to be at the table. I mean, if you can't like just be courageous, think about a couple of things, like you'll care about the issue, your concern or compassion towards the stakeholders, and your right, your democratic right. You see what I mean? And slowly you find your voice. So I was at 20, my early 20s, I was not like this. It was something that I found over years. I can empathize when I see those of you who can't speak up because you say like, why is my voice important? But, collective leadership, go back to collective leadership. Are you carrying your weight? Are you playing your role in your group? Because you have your unique voice. I know that Vivian and Audrey, even if you're quiet, you have leadership insights that could help solve a problem. So one of the things I learned early in facilitation really helped me find my voice, because it's the speak when you move to speak. Be responsible for your success and your group success. You see what I mean? So even though you say, crap, I really don't want to speak because this is really very scary. And yet in the rule, the guideline of speak when you move to speak, the group may need to hear that. You learn that is the time to say something, even if your heart is beating. But I think we have this thing that it has to be perfect. It has to sound really smart. No, sometimes probably the stupidest, simplest looking sounding thing may be the gold, the gem of wisdom. And this goes back again to our ideas of leadership. Does it have to look like Cynthia? Can it look like Vivian? Why would you discriminate? Why would we discriminate? Then you yourself are discriminating yourself. And you're discriminating me too. And that's also a key reason why I know Zoom meetings, face-to-face meetings, all along throughout FS, our interns were at the table. One of our interns, some of you know him, had a stutter. Stutter. Biarpun cakap to you, he'll be like, for 1 minute. Right? Who knew? Neville, true? Ben? He was in government meetings with us. And then, because like when we started Forever Sabah, he was the one who did all the research on Forever Costa Rica, Madagascar, Bhutan, British Columbia. He did all the research. So then he did the great PowerPoint that showed our first meeting with government, showed all the initiatives around the world. And so I said, you present. And then, I mean, he knew that before lah. So I co-presented. I didn't just dump him there. But Sam Manan was there. And he was stuttering. And I was like, yeah, he stutters. Deal with it. I mean, that's basically what I'm saying to everybody. Deal with it. I know he stutters. Do you have a problem with that? So I'm not going to discriminate a young guy who stutters, that he shouldn't be at a table. So I think let's challenge our own ideas of what leadership should look like, and think about the kind of leadership we want in the future. Where, you know, I mean, you look at, you know, you look at all the hero stories or whatever, that the most unlikely person is the, you know, people, or the most unlikely people rise up. And I think, again, going back to the systems change and everyone finding their place in a collective leadership space, that it will be as diverse as Sabah's ecosystem. True or not? I mean, we have all kinds of trees, all kinds of animals, orang pun all kinds, tribes, blah, 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 language. So leadership will be unique.
The ecology of FS. I cannot be, you know, katak bawah tempurung on JCAC only. I have to understand all. That's the reason why we have this mountaintop and also the valley immersion. It's because for us to understand the whole ecology, in order for us, you know, like JCAC is messy enough, but by understanding the whole ecology, I be able to connect all the dots. I think this morning, Nev and Ro, we'll be able to connect the dots between our 3 projects, right? So that's what the beauty of it. You know, we went through the exercise, and of course, when we started, it was slow, but after a while, we understand the tools and we use it together, right? So we come up with keywords, and we focus on the keywords, and then from the keywords, what happened is that, you know, when the others share, our mind is, okay, she's talking about this relationship. She's talking about solidarity, you know, these kind of things. So the all I can say is you're asking us to step up to understand the, yes, we know about our project, but to step up to understand the whole thing. Yeah, that's the system. Okay, the system. Again, this morning, that's the first thing I said, take Cynthia out of the equation. So we did that, and we are happy. And then that's why we were punished.
What I got most out of this was really understanding what it means to be part of a community, but also what being able to see where each individual is in the system as a whole. And then from that, I had like moments of reflections where like I thought, okay, do I want to be part of, do I want to be at this part of the system? Where do I want to move myself to? Because it matters, you know, everything is interrelated and interlinked in some way. This was actually a question posed by Uncle Andrew over there. 2 nights ago, he was asking everybody, after he told his story, he said, how do you want to utilize your life? And he used the words utilize specifically and very intentionally. But in the context of his story, memang ada like, it was different context there lah, but taking it out of that and really asking myself, how do I want to utilize my life? Where do I want to place myself in the system? And why does it even matter that I want to partake in the system? It's because it's home, you know, and what do I want home to look like for myself and for the others and for people around me and for the generations to come. So that was some big revelations that really cabut all the wire, pasang balik, ada short circuit sikit, kena current sini sana.
The one thing I do want to remind all the young people here is, remember, leadership has nothing to do with age. The only reason it's always linked to age is obviously the older you get, the more experience you have. But even with a lot of experience, you're still not a wiser person unless you use the knowledge that you have to do something that's wise. Like I said, I think I put in a chat, I've met many older senior people, senior in terms of age, senior in terms of position, and they all talk nonsense. Absolute nonsense, by the way. So don't be scared and don't be intimidated. When you go in, when you come to meet people, it's about what you have to present. And when you're presenting something, you must know what you're talking about. And it's not about your age. Sometimes the aura comes. Cynthia is known for her work, and I think people respect her for what she has done. That's why they automatically feel very, they all sit upright when she walks in. But that's because she has used all her knowledge. You can see everything that comes out of her mouth, everything that she says, all I can feel is a lot of background information, obviously, which she has used. So you can do the same. So don't be intimidated, and don't let that be your reason for being intimidated because of your age, because a lot of you are young. So yeah, remember that it's not about age. It's just about making sure your content is good and you present what you want to present with passion. And don't be discouraged or don't be intimidated by really a lot of not very necessarily wise senior people.
There is one, I don't know where it came from, but the source that I know is Alice Walker, who's this African-American poet, writer. She says, "We are the ones we've been waiting for." It comes from some poem, but I'm always struck by that. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So you know how we complain about politics, we complain about our leaders, we complain. And then if you think about, we are the ones we've been waiting for. What would it look like to stop complaining and start doing what Kat was saying, is look into our internal systems. And Andrew said, step up. Janish just said it very articulately about, creating the spaces for you to find your spot, to do your life's work. To me, as in my places, mothering this into being, that is certainly a vision. Forever Sabah should be held by young Sabahans that look just like you guys, right? That's the way it's going to be forever lah. And also the thing about the Cynthia leadership, the days of, as Bjorn said, of that kind of leadership, not to say that I should already retire tomorrow, but authoritative, and I don't believe I'm particularly authoritative. If I was authoritative, I would be unilateral, right? I would make all the decisions, hire and fire as I like. We need to change our ideas of what leadership looks like. And it should be as diverse as there are diverse humans. Because we need everybody. I mean, that's the simple reality. Some of you talked about brain being blown, fused, and explosions in the head, etc. I think these are good things. I would like my brain to be blown every day. Because then I'm rewiring, I'm integrating, I'm recalibrating, and I'm making my brain relevant to the reality of the future. So I love this thing about Theory U: open head, open mind, open heart, open hands. Open mind, open heart, open will. The will is the will to do. That's what I love about systems thinking and complexity, because you have to be humble. Because like every day you learn something new and you're like, oh, boom, brain exploded again. Because like what you thought you knew yesterday is not true anymore. Right? So rather than you say, no, I know everything, and I know it's all the same every day, and I want to know, the perfection. And especially I think I keep going back to the climate reality is that no one can know, no one does know. Everybody knows, again, going back to science, right? It's situated and it's partial. I think they are doing their best to know. Like, for example, this whole thing about race, the race to zero. So the race to zero is going to, by 2030, the Paris Agreement says, sorry to bring in something technical, but this is content that we should know. The Paris Agreement says 2030, we all need to make the commitment to zero, to neutralize our carbon, right? The technicality, you can look it up. And if we can do that, we can keep our temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we can do that. But 1.5 degrees Celsius is still going to change the whole planet. And that's only if we reach the Paris Agreement. What's my point now? What was I talking about? Why did I talk about the climate? How can we say that we know what's going to happen in 3 years and 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, and that knowledge is absolute, and we all know the answer. These are the things where, like WWF I respect WWF. We work with them a lot. They have a global strategy. The global strategy says we work on this, and this. The global strategy becomes a national strategy, and then they are guided by that. So I remember some people within WWF, when John Payne was there, he said, how come this small group of people, John Payne, still says something similar, that is an organization smaller than WWF can seem to have more impact and do more work. And I think it's in that thinking. If you have a global strategy that says you know what you have to do for 10 years, and you're going to stick to that, and you're going to make all your national country organizations do that thing based on that, and you can't move out of it. That's why last time they didn't work on palm oil. Only recently they changed it because they see, lots of opportunities in jurisdiction certification. So suddenly they put jurisdiction certification and palm into their strategy. Does that make sense? But they didn't before that. So the point, going back to this one, if you always have your global strategy here, and from the macro design, and you try to do that, let's say to deal with the climate thing that's going to happen to us, do we think we know how to act here? Because where actually does the climate catastrophe, where is it going to happen? I think it's here. in landscapes and seascapes where there are people. I don't think it's people in New York City or Putrajaya or, I don't know, people in insulated places will be like, oh, the sea levels looks like it's rising. It's the people who can't farm, whose house is suddenly like flooded, balik, those are the people who will, who will know. And those to me, that's why those are our key stakeholders. And that's the back to the community engagement part. Okay, that is where the rubber meets the road. So open mind, open heart, open will, brains exploding every day, utilizing your life. Like if you have life, we have this many hours in the day, you have this much energy. How do you use every ounce of it for a purpose that matters to you? So it's not because of a gaji, it's not because somebody told you to do it, but literally you're aligning it with like, this is what I'm going to use my life for. And it's nobody else's business. If you want to learn anything from me about my quote unquote aura, that's how I do it. It is nobody else's business. It is my business. Mostly I don't care if people like me or not. Why do I go into a space and maybe command attention or respect? Maybe because of that. I don't care if they like me. So if I'm going to say something that may not sound very nice, well, to me, that's how I respect people. I'm going to respect you by saying something that's true from me. I'm not going to disrespect you by saying something I think you want to hear. To me, that's a lie. I think these are all things around courage, how you build your courage. So it isn't something magical. These are things like what Katrina said, your own internal voices, your own internal clutter. Like, do you get lost in it, or is it helping you give information to you to say, rewire that. I need to bomb that. That is not helpful. Because ultimately we want to be effective, right? I mean, you don't have a purpose and say, I'm not going to be effective at it. Right? So one system that it is within your control and your influence is yourself. So if you have certain principles, like you're not going to go into a room and bullshit because it's a waste of your time and a waste of other people's time. You're going to show up, you're going to be present, you're going to speak the truth, you're going to let go. Those are your principles. Or you're going to go there. One of the best thing a mentor said to me is, everywhere and anyone and any moment can be the epicenter for change. So that means any meeting, the meeting today, anyone, at any moment. So if you go into every meeting with that in mind, you will have an aura. You will have a presence. People won't mess with you because you didn't go there to like have the coffee or the tea or the kui. And then if you do that, don't judge yourself. Why do you do that? Maybe it's important for you to be liked. Maybe it's important for you to be like buddy with the tuan. And then if you say, yeah, it is important, then you say why. Then you correct more and get to know yourself better. We talked at the beginning about safety, about what's safe, and about trust. And do you have trust for yourself? And therefore, do you think you're trustworthy? A trustworthy person builds a trustworthy system. plays trustworthy roles, builds trustworthy relationships, finds trustworthy resources. So I know I saw that trust came up a lot, and I think it's the reason it came up a lot. So it's important to all of us. And I think it's a huge attractor. And it is a huge reason with LEAP when we worked, you know, and then LEAP founding all the different things that we've done, including Forever Sabah. And why with funding proposals, with reporting, I say, tell the real story, tell the failure, tell the why we didn't do this. And then some of you, sometimes you think, oh, stress like hell because we must sampai this finish line. I say, no, we don't have to. If this entire year, we didn't do any mountaintops, any valley emergence because I don't know why, then we say why. And oftentimes the funders transform themselves because they heard, oh, we didn't know this reality. In Sabah, it's like this, like this, like this. You see what I mean? So let's not be slaves to that funding. I always believe it comes because of many other things. Trust is one of them. And trust is actually core. And trust could be also, oh, they always deliver. We trust them. And then deliver doesn't have to be like, we met all the KPIs. You know, it could be, we didn't meet the oldest bunch, but here's why. And then there's a learning there as well. All right, thank you everyone. Think about your systems, which includes your bowels and your ovaries and your, I don't know, all the things in your body. Are you feeding them well? Huh?
Thanks to Cynthia.
Okay, so you can bend over a little bit. You can bend over a little bit, and then from there you're gonna come